Hey, what's up guys? In this video I want to show you how to implement a simple to-do list in React.js from absolute scratch. This is a real app assignment. Most likely you're gonna need to implement that if you apply as a React developer. And yeah, I will walk you through the installation of a bare bone React app and walk you through the implementation of the necessary React component from scratch. Yeah, the app will display a simple list of to-do items along with an input field to add an item to the list. As you can see, we'll manage the state of completed tasks and not completed tasks. We can toggle it with the checkboxes. We'll have an input field where you can add an item to the list, as you can see here, and it's going to appear along with the others. And yeah, typically, yeah, what we want to develop in these tasks is um, basic React skills that are assessed in an assignment, such as how to build a UI with React, and this is what you're gonna get here. State management as well, we're gonna learn in this assignment, and data fetching. In the context of this assignment, for data fetching, we will not talk to an actual backend. I will show you for now how you can start by importing your data into a React component, and more on actual data fetching and mocking asynchronous events on the upcoming videos, so stay tuned. All right, let's get to it. All right, so let's figure out how to add React to our project. Yeah, we can easily take this example. So you see on React website, there is a section here using React for a part of your existing page. So we need to just have, yeah, we can start with the minimalistic setup. We don't need a fully fledged framework. Um, let's see. Let's just fork their example, bring us to code sandbox. Let's see what they have here. We're gonna do, we just need to, yeah, copy over their same setup. Let's see what they have in package.json. So they have React, React DOM, React scripts. All right, let's do the same. So what we need to do, well, we need to initialize our npm project. So we just run npm init. Okay, yeah, it's gonna ask you some configuration. We can just go with the defaults, version description, entry point. Maybe we're gonna edit later. We get back to that. Yeah, we don't need all this stuff for now. Is this okay? Just give it yes. Cool. So as you can see, we just have a blank simple package.json configuration file. Um, as you can see here, we just need 3 packages to start with. So let's start by installing React, React DOM, React scripts. So npm install React, React DOM, React scripts. Cool, we're done for now for the installation part. Um, yeah, as I mentioned, like we want to basically copy their configuration, and we're gonna use React scripts to build our React files into JavaScript that is gonna be injected in the web page. That I will just not dive into much technical details here for now. Um, so we just need these scripts for npm. We're gonna add them in the script section, right? Oh, it's just duplicated. Sorry for that. This needs to go. All right. Then main is gonna be under source directory. So let's go ahead and create a new folder called source. We're gonna, sorry, I made a typo. Let's go ahead and add index.js. Okay, we're gonna need public folder with the index file that we're gonna, yeah, it's gonna be like the root document. This is the target directory for the React scripts. So let's create a new, sorry, not new file, new folder, public index.html. We also need index.html here. This is where we're going to inject the actual React code, right? And finally, the index.js. Just let's copy this over to start with. Okay, so what we are looking at is that we are importing create root from React DOM. So React DOM is used to inject the root React component inside the HTML of your project. So, and this is, yeah, this is just a function that is called root, and then we're gonna render this HTML inside of index.html. But before doing that, we are in the node side of things. So we're gonna need the scripts that we're defining here. We need to build the actual JavaScript that will run into the browser. So browser doesn't understand React syntax, it understands JavaScript. So that's what build it's used for. So we gonna run npm build. Oh, sorry. And npm run build. We're unable to detect target browsers. Would you like to add the defaults into your package? Yeah, why not? I mean, you can even skip this, but you know, just to optimize the code so we don't need to insert all the polyfills for exotic browsers or deprecated versions, not supported versions, stuff like that. All right, so build was successful and we can start our server or React app. So we can run npm run start. Starting the development server, bunch of warnings. All right, compile successfully. You can now view to-do app in the browser. So let's head over to localhost. Oh shit, sorry. I accidentally killed it. Okay, should be faster now. Okay, as I said, let's set over to localhost 3000. It's the port. There we go. We have our hello world. Um, Now, just to check that everything works, if I added the index.js file, let's add an exclamation mark. Let's check if hot reload works. All right, you can see it's compiling, and yeah, the change is reflected here. So let's start with some data modeling here. It's important, and what you want to show at the interview is that how you approach a problem. So it's important, like to okay, let's define a list of items. Um, example, if we have item one, so we want to have probably an item ID. This is an ID that can come from the database if items are persisted somewhere. Let's imagine we are fetching this resource from a database, right? Let's ID one. We want to have a description. I don't know. Do laundry, right? And then an item as a property. We can decide that an item is done or not. Let's call it is done false, right? Let's start with 3 items. So we're gonna have item 2 can be by groceries, right? Item 3 let's not forget the ID. Separate concerns. So first we want to nail the data model. Data model is how you represent the data, basically. It's how you model reality in the code, right? You always want to have a unique identifier for the items, that you are dealing with. Eventually, if it's stored on the database, you always need uniquely identifiers. So do laundry, buy groceries, and item 3 can be learn React, right? And so we want now to have a function that returns these items. Let's call it get items. All right. It's going to be an array of items. So item 1, item 2, and item 3. And we want to, of course, export this. Okay. Now that we are done with the data modeling, all right, So our next step would be to render this list of items inside our page. All right. So let's head over to index.js. How do I probably split it? One day I will understand, but sorry about that. All right. So one of the advantages of React is that you can write component in isolations. So separation of concerns and having modular component that do one thing and one thing specifically and only is the advantage of using UI libraries React. All right. So we can, for example, create a new file where we want to define how we render our to-do list, right? So let's call it, mm, let's call it to-do item.js, all right? Okay, so let's go ahead and create a component, and which is one of the advantages of React, that you can write components that do one thing. So you can have a modular structured approach when writing code. So if we take this as an example in the tutorial from React Dev, yeah, as you can see, they create a function navigation bar which returns a portion of your HTML. So we're gonna head over to our code here and we'll do the same, but this time we will not, in our case, we will not create a navigation bar, but we are creating to-do items, okay? So now we have, okay, our items. Remember, we created this get items function that will give us an array of items, all right? So we'll have an ordered list. And so what we need to do now is to map our items to an element of the list. So we're gonna do items dot map, okay? Arrow function item. So for each element in the items, okay, I'm gonna return, sorry, list item, and inside we want to render item description, right? Do not forget that we need to export this, so export default to do items, all right? Okay, so what we need to do now, we go back to our index.js. We need to import to do items from our to do items file. Okay. Let's maybe define something more pertaining to our project. So hello to do lists. Okay. And here we want to render, oops, our to-do items. And I cannot, yeah, I can see a parsing error. JSX expression must have one parent element. When that happens, that means that, yeah, they need a parent element. You can add a fragment. I will not describe here what a fragment is. It's an empty HTML tag, basically. Okay, we have an error here of relative imports. Yeah, okay. We can just do something like this. Let's move import, yes. What happened here? Let's refresh it. Why is it complaining again? Okay, I just need to do a save and hot reload. But hey, we have our to-do list now. As you can see, our items are rendered. Yeah, we need an input field and an add button to add items to our to-do list. So what we want to do is to enter the description, what do you need to do, and click add, and we want to have this refreshing, right? And of course, we do want to add another responsibility to our to-do items, right? We want to keep it simple, and that's what you want to do. You would have one component doing one thing and one thing only, right? So we're gonna go ahead and create another file. Yeah, we can call it add item.js. Okay, let's define the function add item. Okay, oops. All right, for now it's nothing. Okay. I have a div, a simple input field. Placeholder. What do you need to do? Okay. And we want to have a button. Okay. Closing tag. Button. Call it add. Okay. As I said, let's not focus on styling yet. So let's see how the result looks like. And so what we need to do is to go back to our index.js and let's import our new component, import an item. Okay. An item. We can just have the shorthand closing tag. See what happened here. Nothing. Yeah, of course it's nothing because I forgot to return anything. So of course we want to return this, and there you go. And we don't need the quotes. Okay, as you can see, we have our input field with add. So the next step, what we want to do is when you click add, okay, you want to see the new element appearing here, all right? And these where the props come into place, all right? Yeah, so what we want to achieve is to, yeah, pass the updated item list down to do items and have the list refreshing. Yeah, so in order to achieve that, we need to pass items down as props and then have, yeah, this component refreshing. So now that we've reached this point, we need to kind of reorganize our components and make it work together. Mm, so we need to just clean this up. Let's go ahead and create another component. I don't know, we can call it, we have add item to do items. Just have call it to do app. Let's, yeah, use it as the root of our project. So this is going to be a root component, and this root component will combine aggregate add item to do items and the additional logic that we are about to implement. So yes, we have to do app. So let's define and export the function. So const to do app. For now, we return, oops, return nothing. Was it complaining? I can get back to that. Export const to do app. Okay. It's complaining. Oh, sorry. All right, so we need to import an item, import to do items, right? And make them work together. We can just copy this from the index. And in the index substitute this with to do app component. All right. Let's re-import it. Awesome. We have it back. So what we want to do now, like the first step, we want to head over to the items. We want to remove this responsibility of fetching the current items. Okay. This is going to be purely presentational, right? And instead, our to-do app will be responsible for that. Okay, there is no suggestion. Import get items. Right. So now the parent component to do app needs to pass the items down to do items, and to achieve that we define a prop. Prop is a parameter to pass down data from parent to child components, right? So that information flows in one direction. So the notation that I'm using here, so you can have two kind of ways you can define props. You can have a general parameter called prop, and then have prop.items, right? Or you can use the object destructuring and just say that items. So you destructure the prop object, naming the properties that you want to use. I will not dive into this for now. Why is it complaining? All right, so we have items, and in our to-do items, we're gonna pass items down here, right? I think the server is not working. Starting the development server, yeah, compile successfully. All right. So now let's head over to our to-do items. So now we see that to-do items has a single responsibility, and what we need to do is to then do something when add button is clicked. So first of all, we want to bind the value of the input field to a state, okay, and have an handler that does something whenever we click add. So we can have const item use state, and I don't have automatic import suggestions. I need to import it manually. Use state from React. Okay. I don't know why it's complaining again. As you can see, use state, it's hook to define a state inside your component, and the state is going to be scoped inside that component, and it's going to be bound, right? So the value of the input will be bound to this state. Say go to the gym. Yeah, you can see appearing in here. Okay, so let's leave it empty for now. We don't want to predefine values. But what we want to do is to define a function, all right? When the button is clicked, we need to pass whatever value we added, okay, as a to-do list up to the parent component. In order to do that, we need to define a handler, and on button click, let's call it like that. We're gonna have a on add item. Okay, it's gonna complain because of, yeah, the linter is gonna complain, but so what we need to do in the handler that we're gonna call it here, okay? And what needs to happen inside the handler that you want to call the parent function that we will pass down from the parent component on add item, and we'll pass item as parameter, right? Cool. So now let's go back to the to-do app, okay? So remember we defined on add item prop, so we need to define a handler that for that. So let's define a function, and on add item, okay. Remember we are passing the new item as a parameter. Though technically what we are passing is just a description of the item, right? So let's add over to add item as well. I will call it description instead. Okay. And the next step, so we want to create a new item, add it to the list of items, and pass down the refreshed list of items to to-do items. All right. So in order to do that, we need to define a state for items. Items set items. Oops. Use state hook with which will be initialized from the current items that we added at the beginning in our function. Okay. We pass the handler. Okay, now comes the interesting part. So remember how we defined our item. So it's gonna have an ID, description, and it's done. So it's done by default. It's gonna be false, and we need to add an ID, which is gonna be incremental, I think. And so we need to then define a new item here. So let's start with the description. Description is easy. Is done. It's false and ID. ID, we can simply take whatever number of items it's currently in the state and then just use the length value and add +1 to that. So item length. Okay. This is going to be whatever, yeah, number of items we have. And sorry, how come an ID? It's called items length +1. Okay. And then we need to add set items is a setter of the state. So we're going to use set item to update the item state. So we're going to set the new array. We're going to spread the existing items, and we're going to add the new item, right? So let's give it a refresh. And one other thing is that is missing. Should work now. Sorry, no. Okay. So feed the cat. Okay. Well, there is just a bullet point. It's something. So let's see if something is up with the description. First of all, we want to check what we are actually doing in add item. I don't remember now. um, all right, we are not really doing anything with description, meaning if we type here anything, foobar, yeah, description is undefined. We um, we need to handle the new value. It's not updated anywhere. How do we do that? We need to add a handler on input. So whenever we type our input, then we need to update description, right? So the event we are looking at is on input, right? Event. And what are we gonna do with that? We need a setter for our state. So set description. set description here, event, target meaning target is the input of um, the input element, and we want to read the value. All right. Let's give it a refresh. Let's clean the DOM. So if I add foobar, all right, then now we have the element here. Though we still need to clean up the input once we click add, because as you can see, we still have the kind of leftover from what we typed earlier. So on this handler, then we want to clean up our state here. Let's give it a refresh. So feed the cat. Let's see. Right, now the state is clean and we have our placeholder yet. All right, that you cannot do much on it. So we want to make it more interactable. So what we want to do is to, first of all, like change these bullet points with checkboxes, right? And make it more like behave like a to-do list. So when you click the checkbox, then you want to have a nice strike through here to mark it as done. So yeah. Um, so in order to do that, what you want to look at is to use the checkbox tag, like sorry, the input type checkbox. So what we want to do is something similar to this. So when you click it, we also want to have a nice strike through here, right? How to do that in React? Yeah, let's change this code into something like this. Parsinger. Why is this complaining? So we want input first of all. Okay. And I still don't know how come this is complaining. But we just need a fragment here. Yes. We want an input of type checkbox. We can just remove this for now. Oops. The closing tag, we want oops, sorry. Add a label. Label, sorry, description is missing, so item and sorry, I need to add a parent element here. Otherwise this guy is complaining. Right, let's see what we have here. Okay, let's add a line break. You know, we want it to be vertical list. Okay, looks already nicer. Yeah, and so what we want to do next is when we click this, we want to cross it over, right? Cross it out. Sorry. So first of all, we want to have the strike through tag. I'm gonna show you how it's gonna look. All right, now everything is strike through. There is no logic. So remember the property is done that we defined earlier, right? So what we need to do here is to render it conditionally. So we're gonna run JavaScript logic in curly braces here. So if item is done, right? Return description with strike through, or otherwise, I don't think we need. See, sorry. Otherwise, just return item dot description. And I guess, yeah. Oops, I didn't need the curly braces here. Okay. Yeah, for now, it's done is false, so it will always return items description without the strike through, right? So we need to tell our app to mark is done, what is done. So we need to have an on click, and we need to have an handler on item clicked. And what we are going to do is to add an handler here. I'm gonna pass it to on click. I'm gonna read inside the event. We're gonna pass two things. The item that has been clicked and if it's checked or not checked. Now I don't exactly remember where the check property is. Should be in the target. Should be correct. Okay, so we have item and is checked. Let's run a quick test first of all. We want to log what has been clicked and if we actually manage to read the target value properly. So let's add a console log. Item clicked. Item is checked. And let's call on item click just to make the compiler happy. This is a conditional, like it's a safe navigation, so run this function only if it's defined. Awesome, so it was actually correct. It's checked, and so now expect to be is checked false. Yeah, exactly. Beautiful. Right. So now we have this on item clicked prop. Let's go back to the parent component. We need an handler for that. The parameters item is checked. All right. So the next step here would be to use the index or yeah the ID to find the element from the array based on yeah exactly the ID and update the isDone property. So we can define selected item. Okay. We're gonna need items find, and so we want to ID so equals item.id. So then we can do selected item dot is done equals to the values of is checked, right? Yeah, I forgot to pass the handler here. Okay, let's make it refresh. Let's see what happens. Item is undefined. Okay, how is that so? To do up.js 23. Is that so? Let's add a console log. Let's see what's going on. Probably I made some obvious mistake. Hmm. Of course, I was not passing anything here. Okay, item is checked. Let's refresh the DOM. And what we need to do is to refresh the set items. Okay. Let's see what happens. All right. As you can see, the change has been applied, and I'm gonna explain you now what happened here. Okay, so now let's do a quick test. Feed the cat, add, okay, and I want to buy groceries. I did that, and I mark it as done. Boom. All right, this is it for now. So to recap in this video, I've shown you how to implement a simple to-do list in React.js from scratch, how to create and make React components working together, and to manage the state inside the components. There is a lot that can be improved here. As a next step, I want to add some style and fetching the items from an actual server and show you how to do that. But that would be the content for the next videos. So I will share the link to the code in the description so you can start from the code that we implemented now. And yeah, see you on the next video. Cheers.